Hello and welcome to another episode of Crip Campus. It's me, Ryan Parrey. I use he, him pronouns. And joined as always by...
Cindy Nover. I use she, her pronouns. What are we talking about today, Ryan?
Well, it's still Disability Pride Month.
Yay!
Hey, Disability Pride. So we're going to talk about some new or classic movies that folks can watch to get in the spirit. And
Great.
Learn, laugh, and love Disability Pride.
Great. I know I watched a couple of movies last night that were on Canopy. I could talk about either one of those.
Please, what did you watch?
One of them was called La Singla. It's in Spanish. I can't remember if there's English subtitles, so I don't know who I'm recommending this to. But what was interesting to me about this film, listed under the Disability Pride banner, is that it's about a woman who danced flamenco in Spain and was deaf. And so I guess that's why it was under the Disability Pride banner marquee, right? And from what I could tell, her being deaf was like a little side note that some people eventually learned. I'm sure the people who were like in the room with her, because the question did come up, well, if she was deaf, how could she hear the music? But the type of dancing that she was doing is very rhythmic, and there was a lot of like pounding on the floor. And so there was like a vibration thing that she was working with. I'm sure if you were in the room with her, you needed to know for various reasons that she might be deaf, right? But in the documentary, her fame and her ability, people were not saying, oh, can you believe this deaf lady was able to do dancing like this? It was like she was very popular in Germany and some other countries. And the people were just saying, look at this young woman. So there's a little bit of age related expectations too, because she was like 17 when she was doing a lot of this. And so that came up a few times. Like, look at how great this young woman is at dancing. But very seldom did anybody bring up the fact that she was deaf. And so I kind of wondered if that's progress. I mean, because sometimes there will be like an LGBT author or a disabled author, and they'll have to go in like the disabled authors section of the bookstore, but their book is just like a novel about fish in the sea or whatever. And so it's like they're not writing about disability, but they're for some reason in the disability section. And so this woman did have a disability, and they mentioned it for 10 minutes in the film, but it wasn't about her disability. And so I thought it was kind of interesting. What is your experience with stuff like that? Somebody who's disabled, but that's not really the point of what they're trying to bring to us. Do we always have to call them disabled dancer or whatever?
Famous disabled dancer, not Alex Shepard, Alice Shepard.
Okay, yeah.
Also just a good dancer. Anyway, I just Googled, was your movie, was it about Antonietti Single?
It was.
Cool. Yeah, no, well, I guess my most favorite example of that, what you were saying is, I went to a play at the Goodman Theater in Chicago several years ago, and it was, I don't remember what the play was, but at one point somebody came out on stage and they were using a wheelchair, and they said some lines and they did some things. And then later in the play, they came out again and they said some lines and they did some things. And I always used to stay for the little Q&As afterwards. I don't know that it was the director. Somebody came out. It wasn't the actors themselves. But somebody said, hey, help me figure this out. I was watching the play, and the character who used a wheelchair, I was trying to figure out, like, why? What's the symbolism there? I couldn't put my finger on it. It was cool and interesting, but like, why was he in that wheelchair? And the person speaking said, oh, well, that's Chris. He's an actor from Chicago, and he uses a wheelchair. So that's why his character used a wheelchair. And the audience member said, no. What I'm asking is, like, metaphorically in the play, what did the wheelchair represent? And
Right, because the audience is primed for people with disabilities to mean something. Yeah. And so that person couldn't understand what container to put this use of a wheelchair in without understanding and Stella Young talks about this too, like, you're supposed to when I see you in this state using a wheelchair, then that means I'm supposed to, like, learn something, and so I feel like I'm not getting it if it hasn't been explained to me, like, why the wheelchair was there. What's that called? You do disability studies, is that called something?
I would call it the tyranny of knowing, but also that is the assumption that non-disabled people get to and have to and demand to know why. But also, well, just shoot, I do disability studies. What do we call that? Well, part of it is to do with representational tropes, right? That this does mean a narrow number of things. It does signify. David Mitchell and Sharon Snyder call it a narrative prosthesis. They say, right, when Tiny Tim shows up looking the way Tiny Tim looks, or being described the way that Tiny Tim is described in A Christmas Carol, Dickens doesn't have to say, feel bad for him. And then when Scrooge changes his mind about Tiny Tim and he lives, that's good. We should be happy now, right? Because even back then, right, folks knew, oh, visibly disabled character, sad, right? And Otto Quayson also talks about this in his book that has a title,
Prove it.
and the title is called, it's two words.
Ooh, charades?
Yeah, this is fun for the listener. What is the name? What is Otto Quayson's book? It's something about anxiety. Well, hey, at home, you can Google this too. I'm Googling it now. Otto Quayson is a professor, was at least, at the University of Toronto, I believe. And I can't find it. Well, shucks. Hey, that's how you know this part of the video of the podcast is unedited. But what writes about in the mysteriously named book is there's an anxiety on the part of the reader, or by extension the audience, right? We want, not only do we want disability to mean something and a narrow set of some things, but when it doesn't, or when the disabled character comes on screen or into the book, we know and expect that something's going to happen, and it's probably going to be related to their impairment or their place in the world. And you've got our attention, right? So I think in the case of this play, right, the woman, this audience member, was just desperate. Like, and the fact that, no, you see, like everyone else on the stage, this man is an actor, and everyone else gets around the stage using their legs and feet. And this person doesn't. That's all. That's just how it is.
Yeah, they didn't ask, "Why does that person have brown hair? What's the significance of that?" Or but we do it for other marginalized groups. If for some reason The Little Mermaid is now black, or in this most recent example that I saw, Helen of Troy is black, then now everyone is wondering why is that? What's the significance of that? So, and representation matters, but come on, we've got a lot of disabled people, 1 in 5, and we've got a lot of black people, so it doesn't always have to mean something, but I guess that's not the world we're viewing in right now.
Right, right. Well, now, and interestingly, I saw that same actor, I don't remember his name. I saw him in a one-man show of somebody else's play. He didn't write it or anything. And I do think that because he used a wheelchair, it made a difference. But that only made it better. It wasn't like it didn't get in the way, but it also didn't have anything to do with the lines being spoken or even the subtext, right? It did make a difference. And I think because you were saying, right, no, that's just an actor or a performer or whatever, and they're doing their thing that they presumably love doing and are really good at. And they're doing it while using a wheelchair, while being deaf, while having cerebral palsy. Does it add to it? Maybe. Does it add to how good it is? Maybe, maybe. Is it worth noting? Yeah, for a minute, maybe. But then also, when can we just enjoy what it is they're doing? Like, what I don't know flamenco. I don't know what to appreciate in flamenco dance. So when I see other dancers, which I don't, but if I did, I wouldn't be like, oh man, that one can hear, and you can tell that it really changes the performance, right? No, that doesn't even sound like it makes sense.
Right.
That's the point, right?
Right.
That would be weird.
Right.
And that's because it's short circuiting all those expectations, all that other stuff, right?
Yeah, and speaking of other stuff, the next video I wanna talk about is the Lawrence Clark's fake charity buckets. You shared this with me, and I think the point is there was so much stuff in the minds of non-disabled people that they couldn't even understand what was happening right in front of them. So could you tell, us about that video?
Yeah, so you can find this on YouTube. It's British comedian Lawrence Clark, Clark with an E, Clarke. And it's a few years old now, but to me, it's classic. I always show it in classes. Lawrence tells the story of being on vacation in South Africa, and he was sitting at a bus stop or somewhere on the street, and he had a sun hat turned in his lap, just turned up. And he says, "Well, I heard this jingling, and I looked down, and I realized some passerby threw money, some coins, into my hat as though I were standing there begging for money." And he says, "Well, so I thought, hey, let's see what I can do with this. This could be fun." So what he does is he goes on the streets of London with, in his words, increasingly ridiculous fake charities to see which ones, if any, will be so out there that he won't get money. And
Well, like, so what are some examples of things that you would definitely not wanna give someone money for, but he was trying?
well, so the first two to me are connected. The very first one says, "Pay off my mortgage." So he's just standing there with a big red bucket and he's saying, yeah, he's there in his wheelchair, excuse me, with a big red bucket, and he's saying, "Pay off my mortgage, pay off my mortgage." And he does have cerebral palsy. He visibly has an impairment and he's using his wheelchair. And people walk by and they toss in coins in. And in the UK, the coins, it could be actual whole dollars, right?
Sure, yeah.
And he's saying to some of them at least, "Oh, you don't want to pay off my mortgage? Come on now." And they say, "Yes, I do. Sure, I do. Of course, I do." And and then he cuts back. So in the video, it cuts to him explaining, and then the actual scenes of him on the street. And he says, "Listen, in the UK at least, it's against the law to do this, to pose as a fake charity and try to get money from the public. That's against the law." So the next bucket says, "Please don't put money in here. I'll get a criminal record if you do." And people throw money in left and right. And he's like, "No, but I'm gonna go to jail. Don't do this. What are you doing?" And at different points, you do see he has conversations with the people who will say, "Well, what is this all about?" And he'll tell them, and they still do it. They still give him money. Another one is it says, "I'm not a charity case," and he explains to them. He says, "Think about this. It's a paradox. If people put money in, then they're ostensibly agreeing I'm not a charity case. But by putting money in, they make me one by definition."
So the 3 examples that you just talked about, the first one is something where no one would want to give someone else money to pay off their mortgage. It's like kind of a privileged thing. And so he's saying like, I'm not even hard up for $5 or whatever. Like I need thousands of dollars because I own a home, right? And so the people were not able to look past that. And then the second one, he was saying, I am going to be personally punished. So it's not just like theoretical, right? Like, you will cause me to be punished if you give me money. And then in the third example, he's bringing up the idea that like disabled people are charity cases in the minds of some people. And so those are 3 kind of different approaches just to see what would happen. And is the point, and I mean, as the audience, to understand that the point is that there's no amount of challenging people, telling them, "Please don't give me money, please don't contribute to this thing that's bad for me," that will convince people more than their own, say, guilt or feelings of pity for people with disabilities. And so in order to assuage that guilt or in order to somehow make better a situation where this guy uses a wheelchair and I don't, like, I feel the need to, like, pay him. I mean, that's kind of the point, right? Like, the passersby just can't get over the fact that this person is obviously a charity case with, I mean, I'm being sarcastic here, but with his use of a wheelchair and with his clear visible impairment, that there's no way to give enough money to somebody like that to make me feel better about the situation, even when it's going to punish them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of it, right? Is there's the social, I don't know if more is the right idea, but here are big words, the epistemic and affective norms around disability. There's what we think and what we feel about disability and disabled people, right? That's so baked in that almost nothing will break that. I think it's having seen all the buckets, and I mean I've shown this in classes before where I make that point, and then students will say, yeah, but also he does have a big charity collection bucket, and that's part of it too. Well, if you don't want money, why do you have a big bucket, right? Which is a point, but I think that altogether it speaks to this unbreakable way of relating to disability and disabled people that at least with his buckets was really hard to break. Some other examples were this is a scam, I'm ripping you off, and that got money. And then should we do my favorite?
I don't know. Is it a spoiler? Are we trying to get them to watch the video, or
Exactly, yes.
you guess which one is Ryan's favorite based on
Yeah,
once you watch the video, right? Yeah, so even with the scam one, so he just takes so many different angles to
really,
try to play upon, because nobody wants to be scammed, right? That is an active feeling that when I've accidentally fallen for something online or when I've been scammed, I feel shame and I feel like, oh, why did I fall for that and whatever. So like everyone out there is trying to avoid being scammed, but not as much as they're trying to have a sense of pity for disabled people. That overrides all other like human fears and impulses and whatever in these videos.
or be seen as being right? Yeah, right. I mean, I think that's true. Now, I've so you were talking about your dissertation last episode. I wrote about this in my dissertation, so I've been thinking this for years. Well, what did you? I mean, you just saw it. What did you think?
Yeah, that was my assumption. Like, we couldn't pay people enough to not be, I mean, they're not getting paid, right? But they get this psychic feeling of having contributed, which I think is more than the 50 cents that they put in this bucket, right? So feeling like you helped a disabled person because they obviously need help, even when they have a home that they've purchased and all that stuff, right? Like, is such a strong need among people. I need to help the disabled that I'm overriding all of my like senses about it. Although I will say, I mentioned this to a friend, and just described the plot basically. And so I guess what I'm doing is priming the audience to not react like this. But my friend said, "Well, you know, times are tough. It is hard to pay off a mortgage." And I was like, "I know, but what I'm trying to say is that like if a person who didn't appear to have an impairment was on the street with that same bucket, they probably wouldn't get, you know, as much money in the bucket, right?" So what I believe the video is about is the impenetrable pity and need to help disabled people that we all carry, and that is being shown in this video, right? Like, and my friend said, "Well, I don't think, you know, sort of attacking any effort to raise money when you need the money is appropriate." And I was kind of like, "I don't think the person does need the money is the point." And in fact, they were saying like, "Don't give me money," right? And so if somebody says, "Don't give me any more servings of food at a meal that I'm sitting at," it would be considered rude if you just forced the person to keep having the food. If you said, "I don't like olives," and then they just kept bringing you more olives, right? Like, so it's not like all efforts to help are always welcome. But I do think that the status of disabled people makes it so that they better accept our help. Who are they to refuse our help?
That you better take my
Yep.
yeah, yeah. It very quickly goes to issues of consent
Agreed.
in ways that I always hear about, but it's landing differently just now. Yeah, right. So now,
So
is that? I mean, did that really happen?
yeah, it happened on Thursday, and today is some other day of the week. So it was last week. But
How'd it go?
yeah, it was like the foundation in this person's mind wasn't laid, and that's not maybe it's laying? The foundation wasn't laying? Shoot, I don't know. Foundation was not there, and so I kinda realized that maybe I'm in a disability world at a different extent than other people, obviously, and so for me to be like, "Can you believe this?" Of course, this is funny and kind of creative to try to test the limits of people's pity and need to help disabled people, and that foundation wasn't in my friend's head, so it was just like, "Okay, but what I'm saying is panhandling is something people do when they're in need, and so let's not poo-poo that effort," and it's kind of like, "But I'm saying that this person wasn't in need and that it was a trick," but my friend couldn't hear that, right? So, hopefully the audience hears this primer, and then they're like, "Okay, now I know the lens to interpret this comedy through."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love it. I love the video. Again, that's Lawrence Carter,
URENC.
Lenceclarke. Fake charity buckets. You'll find it.
Yeah, and I would like to there's a third video that you shared with me, vital signs, and I have a question that applies to both of those videos regarding well, that applies to both of those videos, so could we talk about vital signs? You said you show this in your, classes sometimes, and it seems to be it talking to people with disabilities and their experiences, so now it's kinda like, "Wow, can you really talk to those people and hear their experiences?" Yes, you can, and you can watch it in this video, right? David Mitchell not David Mitchell from Mitchell& and Wedlock or from Britain, but another David Mitchell, is the publisher here and the, participant in the film, so say more about what goes on in vital signs. What do people talk about?
So Vital Signs, Crip Culture Talks Back. It's a film by David Mitchell and Sharon Snyder from, I mean, it was shot in 1996. Maybe it came out in 97, but it was shot on location at what I remember to be the first University of Michigan Disability Art and Culture Symposium. I might have some of those words wrong. But what it seemed and what we get there in it, it's again, this is on YouTube. I think it's in 3 parts on YouTube, but I'm sure you can buy DVD, Blu-ray somehow. But what it is it's any number of disability studies scholars and performers and classics in the field, like folks like Ann Finger. Carol Gill is in it. She's a disability studies psychology person. Carolyn Hahn, uh, foundational disability historian, and then artists and performers like Cheryl Marie Wade, Eli Clare is in it. And what you see, the best parts of it for me are where you see their performances, right? They do talk about things. They talk about like back, especially back then, what is the most appropriate language to use when talking about disability or disabled people and other things. What I think is great about it is, well, exactly that. They were already talking about all the things, talking about and then doing work about all the stuff that we still talk about, right? And now it's even more people addressing the issues through their work. But what always stands out to me is when I first saw it, when I first showed it. This is what I told you the other day. I'd seen it and I moved to Spokane and got a job at Eastern and started teaching disability studies. And I showed it in like the first or second week of one of my very first classes. And one of my students who would go on to be like, we're not friends, but she was a good, strong student. She got disability studies and got into it. She reacted to this, like seeing some honestly, it was just great performance and art. She said, "Do you think they're doing that to like compensate for their lives?" And I remember saying, "No, I think they're doing it because they're performers and artists, and this is their way of expressing what they want to express and doing work about what they want to do work about, right? Like, why would you go there? That they're overcompensating for something." And by the way, that Otto Quason book that I mentioned before is called Aesthetic Nervousness. But I do wonder if that aesthetic nervousness is part of that student's response, right? Well, I have no other way to make sense of disabled people that I see in the world. So I can't just assume, wow, they're a talented storyteller or a dancer or what have you, performance artist, right? And don't get me wrong, like I've said before, I don't know how to appreciate dance or performance art half the time. But I also don't assume that this performer has something they're trying to overcompensate for. And so that's why they're doing this, right? They're performing. I might not get it, the work, but not engaging with it in the way that it's presented, right, is doing something, well, is doing something bad. I don't have a better way to say it. But again, I've seen Vital Signs, Crip Culture Talks Back for 20 years. What did you think, having just seen it?
I thought it was interesting, and I think some of the commentary that people make in it is something that people need to hear. Certainly, just some experiences or ideas that people have are thought provoking, as we're talking about, and your student brought something up. And one thing for me that I came away with, and it's not a critique. So, full disclosure, I do nonviolence workshops. I'm a pacifist. I don't believe that we can achieve any positive outcomes if the means to those outcomes aren't themselves positive, right? And so in this film and in the other one we were just talking about, the charity buckets, there is an idea that we can sort of gently like make fun of like non-disabled people in order to maybe raise some awareness or shed some light on the experiences of disabled people. And so a question I had, because I also had a friend, I'm sure we all do, if we're not the people themselves, who, after so many microaggressions, just in one day, just in one time, trying to go to the darn grocery store, just trying to do anything, by the end of a 1 hour trip out into society, my friend was just furious about how they had been treated because of their very, visible disability. And as a result, was quite fu to the public on a regular basis, right? Was really just not trying to help them understand any more about the situation, was just not trying to engage. And if anything, if given the opportunity, my friend would have tried to make them feel bad about themselves. And that's not necessarily the approach that I would advocate for, but I can understand it, right? Like, and so one of the things that one of the people in this video, Vital Signs Crip Culture Talks Back, does is this person, I couldn't get a full understanding, but the person does not have the use of their arms. They may not have arms, and has a little card that I'm going to say she hands out that says something about the disability, but then it says this card contains poison and it's going to make your arms fall off by the time you're done reading this, right? So it's obviously a joke. There's no way that that's going to happen. And I assume maybe the only recipients of the card would be people that were already giving this person a hard time in various ways, that they're not like going into a church or something and trying to give out these cards just to random people, right? But I can understand the impulse, and there's a little part of me that's bothered by it. So talk me into how I should think about this.
No, I think you're talking about Mary Duffy.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Uh, and no, I don't know. I think, right. Well, I think, part of that impulse, right, is that exhaustion of having to be confronted with other people's assumptions and presumptions and right and questions. And as you were talking, I was thinking of a just a random friend of mine who even I was like, man, you're just so cynical. And I get that, right? Because you need rest and whatever to be, you need that space to be pacifistic, I would assume, right? Even especially when you really mean it. It's like if I'm imagining kids in the backseat of a car being like, "Oh, I'm not touching you," and be like, "I'm using,
Nonviolent communication or whatever. Yeah. Uh-huh.
it's getting harder to do. Oh boy," right? And so, I mean, I think, right, that's part of that impulse is to be like, okay, look, the hundreds of people I give this card to over the years, it's not it. They might feel it's funny at the very least, right? But say more about what you're not sure about that. Because I think it's a good point. Say more.
I don't know that blame or shame fixes anything. I think it tends to create sort of defensiveness. And I know in my classes that I teach, I've had students over the years tell me that they tried to talk to a trans person when they got their pronoun wrong. And then the trans person was so mad that now they're never going to talk to them again or talk to any trans people again or even try because they got kind of shot down by the person. And so what I try to teach my students is like, oh yeah, I mean, for one, it's fine for them to get mad. Maybe that's a bunch of microaggressions that have occurred all day and this was just kind of like the last straw, right? But two, trans people, like disabled people and like all people, come in a variety of shapes and colors and attitudes, right? And so it's okay for you to meet a disabled person who's also a jerk or a trans person who also was mad because they got fired that day or whatever, but completely, so you don't have to say, oh, I was talking to them and because I only see them as this one thing, they're only trans to me or they're only disabled to me, then any reaction that they give back to me must be related to the only thing that I know about them. And so now I know disabled people are all kind of mad. I felt when watching this and when because I tied it to the other one of sort of almost just like kind of trying to make non-disabled people with the charity buckets kind of confused and maybe, certainly not like trying to please them, was trying to kind of stir things up a little bit, right? And so I'm kind of like, is that the way to get people to understand? And I think maybe the answer, now that I'm saying it out loud, is it's the way to get the viewers of these videos to understand whether the actual recipients in the moment are maybe that it's on their backs that the point is made. I guess from a social justice perspective, it is better for 1,000 viewers to understand a point than one person that you are interacting with, if that's the point that you were trying to make. Not to say that 1,000 is always better than one, but in this instance, if you're trying to raise awareness about something, yeah, there's going to be some casualties along the way. I just personally wouldn't really want to hang out with somebody who was trying to kind of like bully somebody in order to make a point. But I can understand why they would do that, and I don't have to classify it that way, and I don't have to tell them you're doing something wrong. I can just sort of not really offer to go out to coffee with them anymore or whatever, like, for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, right. And I think if we had the opportunity, like, hey, Lawrence, you're just making those people look foolish.
Yeah.
And what is that really doing? It's interesting because with his video in particular, I remember watching it on my own and thinking about it and working with it. Then I watched it at Access Living in Chicago. It's like the largest independent living center in the Midwest. And seeing it in a room of like 50, 60 people who were more or less right on the same page about disability, that wasn't necessarily a sad bad thing, right? That was really, I remember thinking that, I remember responding to being in the room with the community, right? Feeling that sense of community in our sort of collective reaction. But then I think after that, I must have shown it to, let's just say, my mom or somebody who wasn't in any way a part of that community, and they didn't get it. And they're, I guess it's good. Or, oh, that's funny. Well, if you say that's funny, then it's probably not. That's not what comedians are after, right? But I've been working for a year on a paper about stand-up comedy and disability and stuff. And that work is reminding me of what you're saying now, right? Because what I'm realizing is there's certain performances and performers who do disability related stand-up comedy, whatever that means. And what they do in and through their performance is different than other comedians, or even what Lawrence is doing in this video. So for instance, I don't spoilers for the paper that hopefully gets written this summer. There's a great HBO special called Career Suicide by Chris Gethard. You can stream it, it's fantastic. There's also a comedy album by Desiree Walsh and a comedy album by Courtney Gilmore called Wonder Woman. She might have more than one. But what they're doing with their performances, that what Lawrence is doing, right, is he's saying, hey, for those in the know, you see what's going on here? Isn't it? Let's let ableism be the butt of the joke, or let's let these presumptions be the thing that we're pointing out, right? And that's fine. And if you get it, like, what do they say these days? If you know, you know. That's important, right? That's a thing. And what people like Desiree and Courtney and Chris are doing that I would say, I am in the process of saying in writing, is they are they're not just saying, "Hey, look at the way the world is. Isn't that silly? Oh my goodness." They're saying, "Let's take the way the world is seriously for a minute. And for right now, for the hour of the special or the hour of the album, see what else is possible. What if we didn't buy into all the assumptions and instead, for right now, thought, felt, and related differently? And then when you come out of the audience, right, maybe you carry that with you, maybe you don't. But during that period, things are different. And hold on one second. I'm
You know what the music means.